have another candidate here who's running for the U.S. Senate, someone you know well. He's been on the program many times, Attorney General here for the state of Arizona, Attorney General Mark Brnovich. Hey, Mark, welcome back to the program. How you doing?
Thanks, brother. Thanks for having me on, Jeff.
So it's this Title 42 issue, and we'll get into some of the campaign stuff coming up, but you've had a big one recently with the Title 42 ruling, and a judge jumped in on this issue. Biden was trying to yank it. First of all, let's remind everyone what is Title 42? What is its purpose?
Okay. Title 42 is what I call the last tool we have in our toolbox that's preventing an even further border crisis. It basically allows the government officials, Border Patrol, to eject people or before they even hear their asylum claims, to force them back into Mexico, their home country. So it's one of the last tools we have left. It's done under, or was created under the Trump administration because of the COVID concerns, and really revoking it is just unexplainable. And that is why I'm very proud. I think this is something so important, Jeff, to remind all the listeners, because people don't mention this, or some people don't mention it, that it was literally our office that led the lawsuit. We literally argued it in the federal court, and it was our lawyers the federal judge agreed with and said that he's going to issue an injunction. The Biden administration cannot revoke Title 42 at this time because of what the Biden administration is doing is arbitrary and contrary to law. Okay, I saw a headline this morning that was something like Biden's going to appeal this. Yeah. Well, we should assume the Biden administration is going to appeal it, and that's why I have been so active in fighting back. As you know, my entire career, whether it's Goldwater Institute, whether it's AG, pushing back against the overreach of the federal government. And that's why, we led this charge to Title 42, because we knew that the Biden administration is doing everything it can to essentially, dismantle not only Border Patrol, but essentially dismantle our southern border. And so I have been involved in all of these fights. We anticipate the Biden administration is going to keep doing this because they seem to want to systematically undermine our border security. And that's why also, just a good reminder, Jeff, is I was literally at the U.S. Supreme Court myself. Again, we sued the Biden administration, fighting them over their attempt to withdraw the public charge rule. So that the results of that case should be coming up shortly. And the Biden administration appealed that one. And so then we went all the way up to the United States Supreme Court, where the U.S. Supreme Court heard arguments that I made myself personally, where we basically said the Biden administration cannot withdraw the public charge rule, which is basically a common sense policy that says that if you're not a U.S. citizen, you can't be dependent on the government to support you. And so what I've argued from the very beginning, from day one, is the Biden administration incentivize and decriminalize people breaking the law coming here illegally. And as a result of that, all Arizonans and all of America is less safe.
On Title 42, and we're talking with Attorney General Mark Brnovich, I've seen that even a lot of Democrats, I think even in a rare time of agreeing, Mark Kelly, who you hope to go up against and challenge in the November general election, Mark, I think he even was backing off on this issue. Or am I living in fantasy world here?
Well, I tell you what, we know that Mark Kelly has voted with Chuck Schumer 98% of the time.
Oh, I know that. Yeah.
Maybe, but no. It was Bernie Sanders 94% of the time. So look, I mean, he may say whatever he wants to on Title 42 or anything else, but it's ultimately you judge a person not on what they say, but on what they do. And the reality is that he has been lockstep with Chuck Schumer, with Bernie Sanders, and he has shown no inclination to do anything when it comes to our southern border. And so literally when I was at the U.S. Supreme Court arguing to defend Arizona and uphold the public charge rule, Mark Kelly was silent. In fact, quite frankly, everyone that's running against me in the U.S. Senate was silent. When we were in court, when we sued the Biden administration over its failure to complete the border law, where was Mark Kelly? Where were all these other people now that are saying that they want a strong border? So a lot of folks talk a good game, where they try to buy support, where they have a lot of money to try to overwhelm people and make people think they're something they're not. But at the end of the day, what have people actually done? And so when Title 42, when the Biden administration tried to rescind Title 42, it was our office it was me leading a coalition of Republican AGs that said, no, you can't do it because you're doing it in a way that's not only contrary to law, but you're withdrawing a common sense health policy that is one of the only tools we have left to try to deal with this historic border crisis. So Mark Kelly, Joe Biden literally created the problem at our southern border. And now that there's a 3-alarm fire, they're pretending like they're going to grab a fire extinguisher and do something. But it's a little late for that because the problem at our border now is gone from a problem that may affect us for the next decade to, I think, a generational problem because of all the people that have come here illegally, because the cartels have made so much money, because we know people on the terror watch list have been apprehended. We know there's been tens of thousands of gotaways. That is people that have snuck into this country that don't want to give up, knowing, you've got to ask yourself, what are those people doing, Jeff? Because everyone knows that the Biden administration is coming here without consequence. So what are these people doing that are wearing camouflage or black clothes that are trying to evade, border patrol? You have to question their motives. And I think that they mean our country harm. And so what has happened is not humane, it's insane. And shame on Cartel Kelly or anyone that tries to pretend now that they care about the border just because they're doing it for politically expedient reasons.
Well, let me ask you this, and we're talking with Mark Brnovich, who's running for the U.S. Senate. I'm asking everybody and I'm having so many candidates come through from dog catcher on up to U.S. Senate races and the governor race that's going on here in Arizona now as well. We've had everybody on who's on the Republican side. The question is, let's assume that the Republicans get control of the U.S. Senate and the House. I think there's a high probability of that. We shall see. Not going to have the presidency, though, obviously, until perhaps 24, really 25. What do we do in the meantime? Let's say you get to the Senate, Mark, and you've got your colleagues. You have the majority in the House and the Senate. What do we really do in the meantime on the federal side? The feds are supposed to do this. This is supposed to be their job. It's not supposed to be. Arizona's not supposed to do it, but they're having to. They should. If the feds don't do something, the states are going to have to continue to get stronger on this issue. What do you do, though?
Well, we talk about all these numbers and the historic problem we have, and I want to touch on those numbers to put in context in a second. But one of the things that I get is, you have to speak truth to power. You have to show and acknowledge that the issue even exists. And it's one of the reasons why I would urge people to go check out the opinion we wrote. Our office, I was the first attorney general in the entire country, first attorney general, governor, any elected official, statewide official, that said what is happening at our southern border constitutes an invasion. So the first thing anybody will tell you have to do to solve a problem is to actually identify and admit there's a problem. And the Biden administration has yet to recognize that what is going on right now constitutes a legal invasion. And so I have said that, whether it's the governor or anyone else, they have the authority to take certain actions, and I would urge people to read that opinion. But the reason why we issued that opinion, and I just want to put some of it in context, Jeff, is look at just April. In April of this year, there were more than 234,000 encounters. It's a historic amount. We had talked about last year more than 2 million people illegally entered our country. That is the equivalent of the population of, Alaska and Wyoming and Vermont combined. We were talking about an entire states, plural, legally entering our country in just 1 year. We know that the amount of fentanyl has dramatically increased. And I will tell you as a prosecutor that the price of fentanyl, the street price of fentanyl has fallen dramatically. We're talking from $20 a pill, 14 months ago to $5 a pill now. And we know that as fentanyl floods into our country, that means more people will die, more people will become addicted, someone's niece, nephew, someone's family members will be impacted because of the fentanyl and methamphetamine, pouring into our country. We know the people that share a watch list have now branded. We know people that, from Middle Eastern countries have slipped into our country and being released. We know the people that have been charged with violent crimes, other criminal activity, are being released into our communities without any supervision. So this is, as I said, it's a generational problem now that we're going to have to face the consequences of, because border security is national security. So I have said many times from the beginning that when I get to the U.S. Senate, I will never vote on any nominee, whether it's for a judgeship, whether it's for an ambassadorship, or it's a cabinet position, whatever it is. We do not have another single vote on anything until we get serious about the border. And that also means that I would commit to literally going into the well of the Senate every day and reading the names of Arizonans that have died as a result of the Biden administration's failed policies. So I think we need to be bringing attention to it. We need to make sure that the Congress focuses on doing their job. As you know, national security, border security is when the president's at the height of his powers. And if they won't do it, then you have to stop, the federal government from doing anything else. So it gets that priority set.
So you shut it down?
Related
you shut
to
it
that,
down, Mark? And I'm sorry to interrupt you. You shut it down?
I think I will tell you what. I will. Yes, I think you do not vote on any nominees. You don't vote on any more budget bills. You don't vote on anything until the White House gets serious about the border. And you also bring attention to it by, pointing out every day the violence that's being happened. I mean, in places like Cochise County, where you have the number of pursuits escalating, sometimes 6 a day because of the cartels. When you talk to folks in Pinell County, where they have twice the number of pursuits now, and the record amount of fentanyl coming in. So this is a real problem. And, a lot of folks, a lot of people running for office talk about, hey, we need to get tougher on the border. But it's like, what have they actually done? And that's why, Jeff, it's important that we have people representing us in Arizona, in Washington, D.C., that not only just talk the talk or spend a bunch of money, but have actually done things that have results, whether it's our Title 42 lawsuit, whether it's suing over the Remain in Mexico policy, whether it's the public charge case that I argued at the U.S. Supreme Court where the Biden administration is trying to give benefits to non-citizens. The list goes on and on and on. And I have actually been there in the fight. And that's why we need to send a fighter to Washington, D.C., because we can't have people that go along to get along. And I've never been like that. You know that. You and I have joked about this before on your show, that I will never win Mr. Congeniality. Whether it's calling out other elected officials, even officials in my own the Republican Party, whether it was prosecuting people like Paul Peterson, where I had to bite my lip and not say anything while we successfully prosecuted him. I have been on the front and center of all these fights. And I just think right now we need tested leaders, people that have not just talked the talk, but have walked the walk.
All right, if you've got